Welcome back, everybody. WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. This is the main event. Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn here with you. It's the most wonderful time of the year. The Stanley Cup playoffs commence on Wednesday night, and then also on Thursday, the puck will drop in Washington as the Flyers take on the Capitals. And now joining us from NBC and NBC Sports, he's their lead color analyst, and it's our dear friend, Eddie Olczyk. Edzo, it's Zach and Mike. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing fine, Zach. Mike, nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on, and it's a somber day here in Philadelphia as Philadelphia has lost a legend, and you know the vital impact that Ed Snyder's had on the sport of hockey and in Philadelphia. Just what are your thoughts about the passing of Mr. Snyder?
Well, certainly condolences to the Snider family, and obviously that reaches well into the family of the Philadelphia Flyers and the entire city of Philadelphia, and just a man who made a huge impact not only in the business world but obviously in the sports world, and in particular in the city of Philadelphia in a lot of different ways. And you'd know that with him not being around this year, that obviously there was something seriously wrong, and it's one of those inevitable things, and unfortunately, we lose somebody, and you got to move on. And at least he knew that his team was able to find themselves into the playoffs, and was a tremendous tribute and a great gesture there by Lauren Hart on Saturday afternoon when she was singing "God Bless America" in sync with Kate Smith, and she was either FaceTiming or Skyping with Mr. Snyder and his family out west. So it was just one of those things, and like I said, he made a huge impact in the National Hockey League, and I think the commissioner, Mr. Bettman, just made some great statements today on the passing of Mr. Snyder. So his team is into the playoffs, and it might be one of those things you build around as a team and as an organization, but certainly a sad day, no question, in the National Hockey League and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Eddie, it's just incredible to really see the way he related to those players. Even a guy like Shane Gostisbehere was talking at length about Mr. Snyder on Saturday. Just why was he able to connect with his players so well? And they just loved him so much.
Yeah, I just know from talking to other players, just, taking care of the players and being around as much as he was, and, living and dying with every win and loss, and, just everything that goes into it. So I think when you've been there since day one, and, something that you're passionate about, and, talking to the players and the coaches and the trainers and everybody that's gone through there, you can always communicate in that sense. And, yes, he's your boss and, your owner, but, people that I've talked to just said that he was a guy that you can, walk into in the front office, or you could walk into him in the training room. It was just, those type of things that I guess players could relate to, and obviously a great respect for, the current player, and also the guys that came before. And I think you see how strong the alumni is in Philadelphia, and with all the guys that either come back or stay around, that's certainly a tribute to, one of the many things that Mr. Snyder had a hand in, with the Flyers and the city.
We're talking to former Stanley Cup champion and current lead color analyst for NBC Sports on their hockey coverage, and that's Eddie Olczyk. And Eddie, as we mentioned, you did win a Stanley Cup in the middle of your career with the New York Rangers. You also played for two other Original Six teams in Toronto and Chicago before coming to New York. Did you ever have a special relationship with the owners like the city does with Philadelphia and Mr. Snyder?
Well, I would probably say more so in Chicago, with the late Bill Wirtz, and now with Rocky Wirtz, because this is my home, and I do games locally in Chicago for the Comcast Sportsnet Chicago affiliate that does the Blackhawk games, a lot like the role that Keith Jones has in Philadelphia. So, the Wirtz family is always been overly gracious to me, whether I was a rookie in the National Hockey League or, you know, I went to Pittsburgh and did television in Pittsburgh and coached in Pittsburgh. I mean, there was always that olive branch that was there and always would be a handshake or a phone call away or, you know, it was just a funny story. Just, I was out traveling and the late Bill Wirtz, his number came up on my cell phone, and it was one of those like, okay, what did I say? What did I do? Am I going to be looking for a job here in the next couple of days? You know, when the owner's hotline calls your cell phone. Again, I was just a broadcaster at the time, and his secretary got on the phone and asked if this was a good time, and I just asked his secretary, Cindy, is everything okay, Cindy? She goes, yeah, everything's fine, Mr. Wirtz. Just want to talk to you. So I just kind of took a deep breath, and you know, you think the worst when the boss is calling. So Mr. Wirtz, Bill Wirtz, gets on the phone and just asks how my family was and everything, and he goes, I understand that you're planning on going to Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. And I said, yes, sir. I'm going, taking my wife and whatever. And he goes, everything's taken care of. I want you to call this person, and you're gonna go to, you know, you're gonna go see this person. You're gonna go to these restaurants for dinner. You're gonna go to these shows, and you know, everything is on me. And you know, so like he didn't have to do that. I don't know how he found out that I ended up going to Las Vegas, but like, you know, that was the type of person Mr. Bill Wirtz was, and obviously, you know, Rocky Wirtz is no different. So I mean, as far as that type of relationship. You know, you just have great respect for people that are in a position of power, and you know, they treat you as one of their own, and that goes great lengths, and how you perform on a daily basis when you're representing them or representing the team.
And talking about relationships, this Flyers team down the stretch, they really banded together, did everything they needed to do to win as they finished the year 15-5-3. A lot of people in the city think that it's a favorable matchup for the Flyers because they're a pesky team and they don't have a lot to lose here as they are that second wildcard team. How do you think the Flyers match up against the Capitals?
Well, I mean, look, the Capitals are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference, and rightfully so. They had 120-some points, whatever it was, and you know, they're pretty deep at the forward position. It's just not Backstrom and Ovechkin anymore. I mean, you got Kuznetsov and Oshie and Williams and Burakovsky. I mean, they're a much different team now they've been in the past. You know, they've added some depth on the back end. Holtby has been as good as any goaltender in the National Hockey League. So, look, I mean, the Flyers have their work cut out for them for sure. But the pressure is squarely on the Washington Capitals. So if you're the Flyers, if you can find a way to win, you know, game one or game two, or in a perfect scenario, right, for the Flyers is to win both games, which, you know, I don't see that happening. But if you can just get one, all of a sudden now, you know, maybe there's a little doubt. Maybe, you know, now the pressure, you know, all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more intense. And then all of a sudden it's, you know, if you're in the third or fourth game and you got yourself a tied series. But you know, the Flyers have been pushing so hard for so long, and it'd just be interesting to see how much that they have left here once you get into game 3, 4, or 5. Like, I expect it to be a 6-game series for sure. I mean, the way that Mason has played, you know, he can win a game with the way he's performed, but you know, it's going to be a physical series. It really is, and that fourth line for the for the Flyers with Van de Velde, Belmar, and White. Is a big, heavy line. You got a guy like Wayne Simmons who, I mean, has had a monster year and can play physical. So, you know, maybe it's the team. You know, maybe it's the team that has the most discipline come, you know, the first couple of games in the series. Both teams can move it around on a power play. You don't want to lose the series because of bad penalties, but it might be the team that stays out of the penalty box and, you know, has the mindset of living to fight another day. So discipline can come in a lot of different ways.
On the way out here with Eddie Olczyk from NBC and NBC Sports, the Flyers, to me, are really a year in front of their plan, and I think this has been a fun surprise ride, and, you know, even the late Mr. Snider guaranteed the playoffs this year, but I don't think many people thought they would be in this situation, and they did grind down that stretch. Just what impresses you the most with the management here with Ron Hextall and the coach Dave Haxtell?
Yeah, well, first off, I think Ron Hextall is has really put his fingerprints all over this team and has been allowed to, obviously. You look at the moves that he made last year at the trade deadline where he got a first-rounder for Braden Coburn and he got 2 second-rounders for Kimmo Timonen. I mean, those type of moves there really set you up for down the road. And, the emergence of Shane Gostisbehere, I mean, you wonder where the Flyers would be or would have been if he would have been there from day one. But he wasn't, and they brought him up, and he will be a finalist for Rookie of the Year in the National Hockey League in the Calder Trophy. But they, look, I mean, it looks like they have a plan. There's not going to be any quick fixes, and they're going to stay the course. And I think that Dave Haxtell has done a very, very good job in his first year in pro hockey. There were some tough times, but that happens with some of the best coaches that we've had in the National Hockey League. So, to me, it's Dave Haxtell said many times, the leadership inside that room, it starts with Claude Giroux and guys like Wayne Simmons and, players that have been around a little bit and, guys that know what it takes exactly to take that next step. And, am I surprised the Flyers are in? I'm not, just because of what's taken place in the Eastern Conference and teams losing players and having tough years, but there was a will and a want by the Flyers, and when you have that, that's very, that's very tough for to overcome, so to speak, when you're playing against them and not being denied mentality. And they deserve to be in there, and we'll see what they can make about the opportunity. And that's the best part about the playoffs is you get a hot goaltender, somebody gets hurt. You win a series, and next thing you know, you're sitting there. Look, there's 8 teams remaining. If you can win that first round, and I mean, look at the Detroit Red Wings. All the pressure to get into the playoffs this year. They made it. 25th year in a row, the Red Wings have made the playoffs. I mean, just immense pressure. First year head coach in the National Hockey League, stepping in behind the bench for Mike Babcock. The Red Wings losing a 3-1 lead against the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. With Mike Babcock standing behind the bench. So for them, they're going in, they're playing Tampa with no Anton Strowman, no Steven Stamkos. Is the pressure off now for the Detroit Red Wings? Considering everything that they went through, because every day was, is the streak going to keep going, and you're pushing so hard that all of a sudden now you get in, now is the pressure off? Now, there's always going to be pressure, but what I'm getting at is I think a team like the Red Wings, who got in and kept the streak alive, now with the hand that they've been dealt, is you're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning with arguably their 2 best players not in the lineup, and they haven't been getting any goaltending. So you just get in, give yourself a chance, and we'll see what happens, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the West as well.
I know you're very busy and you got to run, and we've had a lot of good conversations with you over the years, and we know you're an expert on many things, whether it's horse racing or Kenny Loggins. I know we've gone back about that a few years, but we love your expertise on hockey. Who goes to the Stanley Cup Final and who wins it, Edzo?
You know what, Zach? I'm going to just stick to picking horses and worrying about the Triple Crown and see if we can have a repeat of the Triple Crown coming up after American Pharoah did it last year. I could make a case for probably, in the West, can make a case for Anaheim, LA, Chicago, St. Louis. In the East, I can make a case for the Caps, the Penguins, the Rangers if they can be healthy. I really love Tampa until those guys got hurt. Florida has something. So I just named 8 or 9 teams, and it's all about matchups. It's all I think it's just all about who's healthy at the right time. So I'm going to probably take the 5th on who I'm picking to go to the Stanley Cup Final. But again, if you want to have me on before the Kentucky Derby, then we can certainly talk about. I don't have a problem with stepping up and stepping out and trying to pick horses that might have a chance of winning the Kentucky Derby.
I'm just waiting for the day that we cone a horse and have it. This is it, running down the track to win a Triple Crown. But Edzo, you're the best. We appreciate it.
Okay, Zach, Mike, thanks for having me.